Hey, welcome to another episode of Off the Fence.
All right, then.
Today, my special guest is my bride.
Hey. We should tell people that when we call each other, we always answer like, hello.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
It's good to see you. Can't really see you right now, but
The kids always know who I'm talking to when I do that.
it's weird.
What are we talking about today?
What if we did an episode sometime of the stuff that no one ever sees and hears? It'd have to be kind of a final episode.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, it would be for some people that are like, y'all are weird. We're done.
Really?
Well, something else, again, random squirrel brain. So you're in sweats and a hoodie, and I'm in actually a dress shirt. It's a shirt that can also be a dress, but it feels like a pajama top.
Yeah.
And so we're like super cash, technically.
Do you know I had a realization, and it was like I'd been a lead pastor for a while, and I met with another
That was your realization?
Yep. I met with another lead pastor, and when I went to meet with him, he was wearing like kind of like a warm-up outfit kind of thing. And I was like,
What was he warming up for?
I was like, we can do that?
I remember the first Sunday that you did not wear a blazer, like a suit jacket. I still remember that.
Yeah.
Because I remember thinking, well, we're done here. They're going to fire us.
Yeah, I kind of progressively started with, dress pants, dress shirt, sweater vest,
Yes.
blazers.
I'm glad you never went through a bow tie phase.
Yeah, not much of a bow tie guy. Not that they're bad, I just...
No, you're just not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, so here's what I want to talk about. I'm going to read a pretty long passage from the Bible.
Oh, boy.
Yep. And to set it up, I want us to chat about apathy. And we've kind of been in this theme with the podcast of talking about what's on the, what maybe even psychologically, spiritually, physically puts us on the fence. And so I'm going to read a bunch of verses.
Okay. I can't wait.
Genesis chapter 26.
Go. Wait, 12 through 25.
Right, I was about to say it, but you interrupted me.
If I'm good at nothing else but interrupting you, I just did it again. Love
Genesis
you.
chapter 26, verses 12 through 25.
12 through 25.
When Isaac planted his crops that year, he harvested 100 times more grain than he planted. Booyah. For the Lord blessed him. He became a very rich man, and his wealth continued to grow. He acquired so many flocks of sheep and goats, herds of cattle and servants, that the Philistines became jealous of him. So the Philistines filled up all of Isaac's wells with dirt. Jerks. We all know, what do you get from a well? You get water. Good job. These were the wells that had been dug by the servants of his father Abraham. So not only were they for water, they were nostalgic. They were connected to family. Finally, Abimelech ordered Isaac to leave the country. Go somewhere else, he said, for you have become too powerful for us. So Isaac moved away to the Gerar Valley, where he set up their tents and settled down. He reopened the wells his father had dug, which the Philistines had filled in after Abraham's death. Isaac also restored the names Abraham had given them. Mm-hmm. Isaac's servants also dug in the Gerar Valley and discovered a well of fresh water. Booyah! But then the shepherds of Gerar, they came and claimed the spring. They said, it's ours. This is our water, they said. And they argued over it with Isaac's herdsmen. So Isaac named the well Esek, which means argument. Isaac's men then dug another well. So they just left the well they just dug and handed it over to someone. But again, there was a dispute over it. So Isaac named it Sitnah, which means hostility. Mm-hmm. And he left that well that they just dug. Abandoning that one, Isaac moved on and dug another well. Most of us are catching the drift here. This time, there was no dispute over it. So Isaac named the place Rehoboth, which means open space. For he said, at last the Lord has created enough space for us to prosper in this land. From there, Isaac moved to Beersheba, where the Lord appeared to him on the night of his arrival. I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not be afraid, For I am with you and will bless you. I will multiply your descendants, and they will become a great nation. I will do this because of my promise to Abraham, my servant." Then Isaac built an altar there and worshiped the Lord. He set up his camp at that place, and his servants dug another well. Now, here's what's interesting about all of that. You remember, when he started, life was fantastic. He was drinking out of the wells that his ancestors, right, had dug and were thriving. Everything was awesome. But then people got jealous, filled in those wells, moved him on. He dug another well. It worked. People wanted that, so he gave it to them. So he did it again, and they moved on from that. Eventually, he gets to this place and has a conversation with God. Where God says, all right, I want to talk to you about how I'm going to bless you, how I'm going to use you. I'm going to bring descendants through you. This is going to be awesome. I think that story that I just read is a good way to look at life.
Yeah.
Specifically, when you and I do life, and it's going great, it's going fantastic, and then it's not. So then we rebuild. It's fine. It's fine. Everyone knows we encounter stuff that's difficult. So then you move on and you start rebuilding again, in essence, whatever it is.
Yes.
Maybe, okay, let's do this relationally. You are in a relationship. It ends. It's so sad. Right? That's my sad voice. And you're crying. It's sad. And I don't know if this is ever happened again. But then a new relationship starts. You're like, you know what? This is good. This is good. But I think it's when it happens again and again and again that eventually we're like, I'm done.
Yep.
And that's when apathy sets in.
Yes.
We've talked about being undisciplined. We've talked about like lowering your standards. We've talked about but let's talk about apathy more directly, well digging.
Yes.
Let's talk about well digging. That's the story I read. So you dig something, you start something, you join something, you make changes, and you're having the needed conversations, you're doing what needs to happen, it's working, and then all of a sudden, you have this either difficulty, you're like, so am I done?
Yeah. No.
You had the energy to dig the first well, but what about the second well? And I thought we should talk about that.
And they take time. When we think about digging wells, we're like, oh yeah, that's not that big of a deal. That takes time.
So, and to add to the complication of that, we get emotionally attached to the things that we start. We get emotionally attached to the wells that we dig, in essence. We get emotionally attached to the things we create, the things we build, the things that we have, the people that we're around. We get emotionally attached to them.
You know what that makes me think of? The place where like you grew up, no matter what, when you return home, if you move away, or if you live there your whole life and you never move, it's changing and you're so resistant to change because it's not like this is different than it was or whatever. That's what that makes me think of. I hear that a lot from people. Yeah,
for sure. I've processed this. We've talked about where Hayden went to college, and a part of the grieving in that, like, what is the inside of that grieving process? A part of it is we have dug a well with a child, and now that child's gonna go and not like be gone forever.
No, but go dig his own.
Yeah. And and you realize the emotional connection you had to digging that well, to raising that kid. And the daily part of it was a part of the routine, the rhythm, the heartstrings. And so if you realize, wow, this is tough. I try to think of different stuff you start and you're all in, and then you kind of like lose the momentum of it. And it's worth bringing up, and I think in podcast form, what are you married to that was only meant to be a method of something?
Or a season.
A season of something. That you've decided that because you built it and did it, it's forever.
Yeah. Like I've been wearing the same perfume since 8th grade.
Have you really?
I have. Clinique Happy. That's just funny. And there are some things that, like, that's fine. Wear whatever you want. But you're right. We get locked into this place for safety or security, for rhythm, for I feel comfortable here because I've been part of it. Oh man, because that's our human nature, right? It's really just to settle in and literally like mold the chair to our bottoms because we're sitting there for so long. Like we like that. It's comfortable. It feels safe in a world that feels unsafe.
I was about to judge you for the perfume, but it's a tension there because the other day I was actually thinking how nice you smelled.
It's a good perfume, so why change a good thing? But that's different than God is calling me to this place, but I don't want to move because I like where I'm at is comfortable and familiar.
Right, but
or I don't want to talk to that person over there that I feel prompted to go sit with and talk to because I don't know if it could be scary. Perfume's different, but it is funny that I am a creature of habit while simultaneously loving to try new things and be slightly adventurous. As long as there's safety and security, because I also won't watch a new movie because I just don't want to stress out about the people in it and what's happening to them.
I'm definitely not a creature of habit.
You're a creature of rhythms.
I don't have any rhythms. I don't do anything the same ever.
Well, that's not true. Depending on the day of the week, I can... If somebody said, hey, where's David at right now? I could go, what day is it? What time is it? Here he is.
It's true. I am lying.
But you're adventurous and you are movable.
Right.
And that's amazing about you.
I have a tendency to find something that I think works
Mm-hmm.
and then stick with it.
Shirts.
Forever.
Restaurants.
Yeah. Find a good restaurant.
Even toiletries. Like,
right. Lock it in.
It makes it easy, though, because there are so many things that we're already thinking about. That's why, like, Steve Jobs with the black turtleneck, I get it now.
Yeah.
Because, like, you wake up and you don't have to make that decision.
Sure.
Or before you go to bed, you don't have to waste any time. You just go, yeah, jeans and a black turtleneck. Have a nice day.
So I think we do some of the things that we're all doing, because I imagine right now, people listening, I wonder, how long have you been using your current deodorant? Why? How long have you been... like going to this certain place that you go to always and you go, because it's good. You got your good reasons. Fine.
Sure.
So transfer that thinking to, could you also be stalling out apathetically in life?
Yes.
And you are maybe, let's say maybe an age that you've now landed at, I'm not going to dig any more wells.
Yes.
Or I already dug wells. I don't want to do that anymore.
Leave it for the young bucks.
Yeah.
Do you know, I hear that a lot in ministry, like people that have raised children will say, I'm not going to serve in the kids ministry anymore because I'm done with my kids. Well, that's the best time ever to go back and disciple children of the next generation, because you are not having to rush there with all of your kids in tow. But we hear like, oh no, that's for them.
Amen. So I wonder if someone right now is, and usually when you're apathetic, when you have apathy, you've not thought about what we're talking about, because what you've been doing is working. It functions.
Well, right. It may not be working, but it's moving.
Sure. But you know what I'm saying? Like where, and I think apathy is often covered up by functionality, where what you're eating, how you're eating, how you're prepping, what you're saying, what you're watching, it's all like you're able to function. You're able to do it. However, there's this other world that maybe eventually another friend might introduce you to, and so you do it, you're like, oh wow, I've been missing out.
Yes.
Well, according to some lessons we see in Scripture, and I read one of them about sometimes you dig well, sometimes life forces you. Sometimes conflict forces you.
Yes.
That you saw, like he was like, all right, guys, you can have the well we just dug. But notice what God does. God shows up with Isaac after he's gone through all of that. And it makes me wonder something about God. Was God waiting to see if Isaac was going to be apathetic at the first time that his first wells got filled in?
Yep.
Was he going to resign then and be like, man, but I spent so much time digging those, or my ancestors spent so much time digging those wells. You're like, well, no, didn't quit there. What about the wells that he dug?
Yep.
He's like, well, I dug this. I don't want to move on. This is my place. And notice that God shows up, what we're told here in Scripture, after he's moved on multiple times. What could you as a person right now be missing because you're refusing or not thinking about moving to digging a new well?
Can I just interject? One thing that this makes me think of is whether you're leaving something on good terms or not, the fact of the matter is that no matter what we're doing in this life, we will not be here forever. And so it actually just reminds me of the stewardship, the excellence with which we dig or lead or are part of whatever we're part of. Eventually, we're going to hand that over, whether it's because we're moving on to dig a different well or because we're just not here anymore. And so paying attention to how we're leading and doing it in the midst of it too matters, because it will be something that we hand over to someone else. I think that's important. How are we just living life with excellence, doing our very best to leave it well?
Makes me think of a personal example, and then I want to lead from the personal example into another story that will help us have a little bit of application to this, and then we'll end our time together. But my personal story may not apply to everybody, but I hope you'll just listen to this. Years ago now, I was sitting in our city's, Rapid City's theater in what's called the Civic Center.
We were watching Brûlée.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was awesome.
And we were there with a couple from our church, and they had invited us and like, hey, we really want to take you to this thing. So we sat there and we're watching it. It's beautiful. It's amazing. It's really cool.
It was amazing.
But while we were there, I had this thought, and I kind of felt like, I think God's talking to me. And the thought that rolled in my head was, David, I want the church to worship here. So I had that thought. It had no relevance to what we were watching. What we were watching was not a Christian thing. It was it was a show. We were watching a show. So I had that thought, and I began to wrestle with the thought. I was like, is that just an idea I came up with? Is that what God wanted? And well, what eventually led to, I think we locked on to, that's God wants us as a church to meet there at the theater to worship. So we planned it. And we planned it for an Easter. We called it Easter at the Civic Center. And we planned 2 services. No idea if anyone would show up. Scared to death. There were people against the idea that we were not in a church building. And there were people all for us not being in a church building for Easter, right? Easter, where you dress up, you go to church, and it looks churchy, feels churchy, and you did your church thing. And there were some people opposed to it and people who were for it. And no idea, just really felt like God said to do this. And so we began to walk that out, and the timing worked with Easter. So we did it, and people showed up in droves.
Ran out of New Believer Bibles.
Gave an invitation, do you want to follow Jesus? And so many people decided to follow Jesus, and the Bibles we had prepared to give them, we ran out of those. So people were giving away their own personal Bibles. Well, here, you take this Bible, you take that Bible. And it was one of the most amazing moments of a well in this context that God asked us to dig. So then we did it the next year, and the next year, and the next year. And about every other year, more and more and more people came, and we kept seeing God do amazing things. It's awesome.
Yes.
And it became to be one of those things for us as a church that we all super look forward to. We're like, yes, can't wait for it. I loved it. But we began to notice something about it. A couple of things. One, it was getting more and more expensive to do.
Yeah.
Like, we had to move from the theater to the arena. And Rapid City didn't have a whole bunch of options for us to utilize. So we had to have people from Nebraska coming to bring equipment in order to utilize so we could have enough sound and all that kind of stuff. So it began to get more and more expensive. And what we also noticed was it wasn't really helping us like retain, like we would be able to share who Jesus was with people. But then like the following week at church, it seemed like those same folks weren't still coming anymore. And we began to wonder, is this what the Lord wants us to continue doing? The problem was that more and more people were attending it. We were loving it. It was fantastic.
It was good, but was it best?
Yeah. And then I had this thought, and I wondered if it was God. and God sharing with me, David, I think you should bring back Easter services to the Fountain Springs Church building. And I'm like, God, that's not a good idea.
And the heart of it was to help people be sitting in a seat that they would come to the next Sunday. Yeah.
We wanted to
For
not
continuity
just
of the sustainability of, we want a relationship with you. We don't want you to just come see a show and hear about Jesus. We want you to belong.
Exactly.
And walk it out with us. Yeah.
Yep. And so we followed that prompting that we felt like was from the Lord.
Yeah.
And we stopped Easter at the Civic Center because we felt like the Lord was leading us that way, almost like he led us there and leading us
Sunset.
out.
Yeah.
Not that Easter at the Civic Center was bad.
No.
There was nothing bad about it.
No, and the heart behind it was good, and the reasoning was good. Yeah.
So that was a defining moment for me as a pastor, because it was one of the first things as a pastor that I had helped start and then helped end.
Yes.
And it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. And it wasn't because statistically all of this stuff, it was showing, it's time to end this. The stats didn't say end it.
Right.
God did.
Right.
And so that's been very defining for me. And so we moved it to the different locations and we've seen God use it in amazing ways.
Yeah.
But we didn't know that at the time and how that would work out. Now that I hope that relates to everyone listening. I was just trying to give you a personal example of how God led me as a leader into something, and then he led me out of it, and it was grueling. I wept. I have cried. Even telling it right now still makes me emotional. I miss it. I miss Easter at the Civic Center.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that it's forever, never going to happen again. I'd only want to do it, though, if God says do it.
Yeah.
So that's my personal story. We each have our own stories, perhaps not where we let God lead us into something, but have you allowed him to lead you out of it into something new? So here's a story I wanted to tell that might help you know what needs to happen. It's a story about fighter jets.
Oh, yeah.
I love fighter jets.
Is that Top Gun?
Yes. We should like just always have the Top Gun music playing.
The Danger Zone? Or one of the other songs?
Yeah, all of it.
Okay.
So when jet fighters were first invented, there was an issue with them because they were so much faster than previous warplanes.
Okay.
Like all of a sudden, so the major issue was, what if a pilot needs to eject? It was a different story problem.
Yeah, but the velocity.
Yeah,
way
the
different.
velocity, everything was significantly different. And so when they needed to eject from a propeller plane, they pushed a button, cleared the plane, then just kind of rolled out of the seat, and the parachute would open, and it wasn't that big of a deal. So jet fighters were so much faster that there was this sophisticated process, and a problem arose that in the testing of this stuff, which how about being involved? How about
Wild.
being honest, that some pilots, that as they were going so fast, the problem arose, they wouldn't let go of the seat.
Huh.
Because they're going so fast.
Yeah.
When they're going so slow, propeller plane, they're like, I'll let go. Let's go, parachute,
Right,
yay.
right.
The velocity, the speed, because the pilot wouldn't let go, it didn't leave any room for the parachute to be able to get out and for that pilot's life to get saved. So engineers, they said, here, engineers, fix the problem of this pilot doesn't want to let go because he's going so fast, or he or she, they're going so fast. So we don't want to fix this. So engineers fix the problem. And that's what, so the new design, they went back and designed something, a device that would force the pilot forward out of his seat, removing his grip from the seat. So they literally had to create a device that would thrust the pilot forward, forcing them to lose their grip to where they could let go and shoot out.
Yeah.
Our greatest threat in life to God using us in mighty ways is that we have gripped on to things that we find secure and we're missing out on the better life God has intended. So we're not digging new wells because we're gripping onto the old one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's natural, by the way. It's proven natural that to assume that our role is actually to protect ourselves, protect our wells, protect what we've built, and all that kind of stuff. I love that story because I think it plays out actually like factually and tactically with each one of us differently. Is what do you have in your life? Who do you have in your life that's pushing you forward enough to help you loosen your grip?
Yeah.
What behaviors do you have in your life that keep you from owning this world too much? Scripture talks about that, how we're not permanent residents in this world. We are aliens in this world. We are temporary residents in this world, but I think we grip this world as though the original fighter jet pilots were like, no, I can't let go. I can't let go. And emotionally, I can't even. So sometimes you have to have other people and other disciplines in your life to help you get remove that grip.
Yeah.
And one of the ways to remove the grip is don't always look at the stats and the data and the safety and then what you've built. There's other ways you could probably go about doing this. I don't want to put too many ideas in your head, but I think it's worth talking about just that, hey, how are you? Maybe it's a basic conversation you have with people in your life. Hey, am I holding on to things? Are you aware of things that I'm just holding on to that I really shouldn't be holding on to? I've got a grip on it way too much and I need to do something different.
Some really light examples would be like parenting. When we first got married, every night before we went to bed, the house was spotless. Like we cleaned, the dishes were done, clothes were put away, like everything was done. And then we started having children. And like even last night as I went to bed, I cringed because there's dishes in the sink. And I was like, you know what? And the dishwasher was clean. And I was like, you know what? That will keep until tomorrow. Like even notice the small things though, because like it's not a bad thing, but there's movement that happens or stuff that happens naturally that you're already doing. So count those as wins and then open yourself up to the bigger things that the Lord is saying. It could start with like, wow, I really love sleeping in, but if I got up 30 minutes early, I could spend some good time in the Word with the Lord. Like look at even the small steps that you can take to just start exercising those muscles of what can I do different and change? What can I stop and what do I need to start and all of that?
Yep. One way to begin process this, write down your accomplishments, write down what's important to you, write down what you're currently doing, and that'll help you identify areas that you may not have like overly gripped to, but areas that you could.
Yeah.
And then as you process that, are you willing at any moment when God says, I want you to do this, to let go?
Yeah.
And that's, don't let go for the sense of adventure or risk. That's not what this is about.
Yeah.
It's about apathy. It's about, have you given in to your successes in a sense, your accomplishments? Have you let them determine, well, I did enough, accomplished enough, I'm gonna coast? Don't be that person.
We won the state championship in high school, so there's nothing left for me to do in my life. Like when God says, oh, there's so much more. Let's go. But I
regularly tell our church, and I mean this. Here's how I see my job boiled down very simply. I'm going to try to hear what God says to do, and I'm going to share it. And that will be painful at times and exciting at times.
Yeah.
But that's going to be my role. I think that ought to be all of our roles, always in every. God, what say you?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
And if He might say, keep at it.
Yeah.
Keep doing it. Good job.
Or get ready.
Good job.
Get ready for a sunset.
Sure.
Yep.
But and just say, okay.
Yeah.
All right, God. Prepare my heart. Help my heart.
Yes.
Help me know what to do.
Yeah.
Help me process this.
I think about that because when we started the conversation about coming here, about a year before that, almost exactly to when somebody called you and reached out to you about moving to South Dakota from Kansas, we weren't very far from our families. I had started a job that was hard, but it was good. We were planting a church. And about a year ahead of the conversations on whether or not to move to Rapid City, I was starting to feel released, and it was really frustrating because I stopped leading the Bible study I was leading. I just felt like I just felt unsettled. And I think a lot of that was in the Lord's goodness. I'd never moved before. And I think He was starting to prepare me even before he started preparing you. So also trust those types of things, like listen and lean in, because I didn't go, we got to move right now. I said, Lord, what's going on? Why am I feeling this? What can I do about it? And that was such a kind gift that he gave me, because then when you started feeling it, and then when we ultimately got the call, my heart was already open, where I don't know that I would have been if that wouldn't have happened. I would have been like, no, I want to stay by family. I want to do this. So listen to the promptings of the Lord, spend time with him about those, and invite other people to be part of that too. I love that you say, don't just dump stuff to dump it. Get people around you that can walk with you and offer wise counsel and help you even lean into the Lord in new and different ways too.
I'll regularly have people who work with me and around me, and when they're new to it, all of a sudden they'll start to ask me from the side, David, are you leaving? But the language is, I've learned that my role, I hold loosely to.
Yeah.
Anything. I know, I'm not planning on leaving. I got no plans, none of that. But I know that my role in life is not a specific role. Yeah. It's a level of obedience to God. And so Isaac, I think, knew, like, we got to have water, so let's go dig water, and we're going to keep moving. Who knows what God's doing here, but God's moving him.
Yes.
And he's letting some stuff happen to move him along the journey. And the end result is not how many successes do you have in life and all that. No, it's like, did you listen to God? And okay, cool.
And then look what God did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hope this conversation challenges you, because you might be going, wow, what's God's timing and how to, no. Just let God deal with the timing. You deal with your grip.
Absolutely. That's good.
And challenge your grip. Ask yourself. I think it's
slow your roll.
I do this as an annual audit on myself. What have I gripped onto that if God took away or moved out of my reach, I would be so mad about it.
Yep.
And that helps you know. But thanks for listening to us talk about apathy and wells.
Yes.
We love you very much. Till next time.
So much. We love you.
Peace out.